And the names are Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo.
Casablanca wasn't just a timeless romance set against wartime shadows. It was an accident, a beautifully controlled collision of uncertainty, rushed decisions, political anxiety, clashing egos, and a studio production that never expected greatness. Behind the fog, the piano, and the unforgettable lines, nothing is stable. The script changes daily. Actors don't know the ending. World events reshape scenes in real time. Today, we reveal 20 weird, shocking facts. Watch closely, listen carefully. Let's begin. The script was never finished during filming. Most classic films are carefully planned. Casablanca is not. Day after day, actors arrive on set without knowing what they will say. Pages are rewritten overnight. Dialogue is revised between takes. What audiences didn't know is that the ending doesn't exist when filming begins. No one knows who Ilsa will choose. Not the actors. Not even the director at first. This uncertainty bleeds into the performances. Confusion becomes tension. Hesitation becomes longing. It isn't scripted chemistry. It's real instability captured on film. The movie's emotional power comes from not knowing what happens next, because the people making it don't know either. Humphrey Bogart is considered wrong for the role. Before Casablanca, Humphrey Bogart is known for tough, cynical characters. Rick Blaine feels different, softer, wounded, quietly idealistic. Studio executives worry he lacks romance. They fear audiences won't believe him as a leading man in a love story. What audiences didn't know is that Bogart has to fight for subtlety. He tones down toughness. He slows his delivery. He allows vulnerability to sit in silence. Rick isn't a hero in motion. He's a man standing still. That restraint becomes the film's emotional anchor and permanently reshapes Bogart's screen identity. Ingrid Bergman never knows which man she will end up with. Ingrid Bergman is lost on purpose. The filmmakers don't tell her whether Ilsa ends the film with Rick or Victor. They want confusion. They want hesitation. They want real emotional conflict. What audiences didn't know is that Bergman plays every scene without knowing her character's fate. Her uncertainty is genuine. Her glances are uncalculated. That's why Ilsa feels torn, not written as torn. The indecision you feel isn't performance, it's circumstance. And it makes every moment between the characters ache with unresolved possibility. The film is made during a real global crisis. This movie isn't reflecting history, it's happening inside it. Casablanca is filmed while the war is ongoing. The outcome is unknown. The fear is current. The stakes are real. What audiences didn't know is that many background actors are actual refugees. People who fled occupied countries. People whose futures are uncertain. When characters speak about escape, loss, and borders, they aren't pretending. The film captures a moment when hope is fragile, and that authenticity seeps into every frame. "Here's looking at you, kid," isn't planned. That line isn't iconic on paper. Humphrey Bogart improvises it casually during filming. It's personal, intimate, unforced. What audiences didn't know is that the line isn't meant to recur. It just feels right. So it stays. Then it repeats. Then it defines the relationship. The phrase becomes shorthand for everything the characters can't say out loud. It isn't poetry. It's familiarity. And that's why it lasts. The famous piano scene uses a hidden trick. When Sam plays as time goes by, it feels effortless. But what audiences didn't know is that the song is already recorded before filming. The actor mimes carefully to match timing exactly. Why? Because the song cannot be altered. Ingrid Bergman has already cut her hair for another role. Reshoots are impossible. The solution is precision. Everything must match perfectly. The result feels spontaneous. But it's surgical, and it preserves one of the most emotional moments in film history. The film's politics are carefully balanced. This movie walks a dangerous line. It supports resistance without becoming a lecture. It celebrates sacrifice without glorifying conflict. What audiences didn't know is how closely the studio watches political tone. The script is adjusted repeatedly to avoid alienating audiences or officials. The film never shouts its position. It implies it. And that subtlety makes its message stronger than slogans ever could. The ending is designed to feel like loss, not victory. The final scene isn't happy, it's necessary. What audiences didn't know is that the filmmakers resist a romantic reunion because it would feel dishonest. The story demands separation. Rick doesn't get the woman, he gets purpose. That choice elevates the film from romance to legend. The movie premieres with no expectations. This is not treated as an event film, no grand build-up, no prestige campaign. At the studio level, Casablanca is viewed as just another wartime picture moving through the release schedule. Executives don't expect awards. They don't expect longevity. They expect competence, and nothing more. What audiences didn't know is how quickly that assumption collapses. Early viewers return for second and third screenings. Critics respond with unusual intensity. Word spreads quietly, then decisively. The film doesn't explode overnight. It accumulates. Its reputation grows through repetition, not hype. Scene by scene, line by line. Until something becomes clear. This movie isn't passing through culture. It's settling into it, permanently. Casablanca redefines screen romance. Before Casablanca, romance usually ends with togetherness. The final image confirms union. Love is reward. This film breaks that rule. Here, love means letting go. It means choosing responsibility over desire. It means understanding that feelings alone aren't enough. What audiences didn't know is how deeply this shift reshapes cinema. Countless later films borrow this emotional structure. Love defined by sacrifice. Connection measured by restraint rather than possession. Rick and Ilsa don't win. They accept. That choice reframes romance as something mature and painful, not triumphant. And if you're still watching, go ahead and like and subscribe, because the next 10 facts reveal how this quiet decision echoes through decades of storytelling without announcing itself. The foggy airport scene is a technical illusion. The final airport scene feels vast. Open, unavoidable, but it isn't. What audiences didn't know is that the set is small, tightly controlled, and carefully disguised. Fog machines blur depth. Forced perspective stretches space. Some background figures are shorter performers positioned farther away to simulate distance. Nothing is accidental. The illusion creates a world that feels larger than the characters inside it. The setting suggests escape, movement, and possibility, while the story delivers separation. That contrast matters. The space feels expansive. The choice feels final. And that tension is why the scene lingers in memory long after the plane disappears into the fog. Claude Rains turns ambiguity into charm. Captain Renault should be untrustworthy. He shifts loyalties. He jokes during serious moments. He dodges responsibility with elegance. And yet, he's irresistible. What audiences didn't know is that Claude Rains plays Renault as deliberately unreadable. He avoids clear moral alignment until the very end. Every smile carries uncertainty. Every line feels like a test. This ambiguity makes him feel real. Not heroic, not corrupt, adaptive. In a story about rigid choices, Renault survives by flexibility. And when he finally chooses a side, it feels earned, because it's delayed. His charm isn't decoration, it's strategy. And it quietly reinforces the film's central idea. Survival often belongs to those who understand timing. The film uses silence as dialogue. Some of the most powerful moments in Casablanca contain no words at all. A glance held too long. A pause that interrupts conversation. Music filling the space where dialogue would weaken the moment. What audiences didn't know is how intentionally silence is used. These gaps are written into the rhythm of the film. They allow emotion to surface without explanation. The characters often say less than they feel. Silence becomes confession. Hesitation becomes truth. The film trusts the audience to listen without being told what to hear. That restraint gives scenes weight. It turns absence into meaning. Not louder, not clearer, just deeper. And that trust is one of the reasons the film never feels dated. Many supporting actors share real trauma. The background of Casablanca is filled with faces that feel lived in. That realism isn't accidental. What audiences didn't know is that several supporting actors have lived experiences similar to the characters they portray. They've fled unstable regions. They've lost homes. They've crossed borders without certainty. When these actors speak about escape or waiting for permission to leave, they aren't imagining the fear. They're remembering it. That truth settles into the film quietly. It can't be manufactured. It shows in posture, expression, and restraint. The story isn't just performed. It's carried. And that authenticity gives even minor scenes a gravity that scripted dialogue alone could never provide. The studio nearly changes the title. Before release, alternate titles circulate. None of them work. What audiences didn't know is how close the film comes to losing the word that defines it. Studio discussions explore names that feel safer, more descriptive, more marketable. But something resists change. Casablanca isn't just a location. It's a mood, a crossroads, a place defined by waiting, uncertainty, and choices delayed too long. One word anchors the entire film. Change it, and the atmosphere fractures. Keeping the title preserves the mystery. It allows the city to become symbolic rather than specific. And in hindsight, it's impossible to imagine the film being called anything else. The love story is built on regret, not desire. Rick and Ilsa don't pursue each other. They remember. Their connection is rooted in what has already been lost. The romance exists in recollection, not action. That structure is unusual for its time. What audiences didn't know is how radical this approach is. Most love stories move forward. This one looks backward. Every interaction is shaped by regret rather than hope. The past presses against the present in every scene. The love feels heavier because it's unresolved and possibly unresolvable. They aren't deciding whether to fall in love. They're deciding what to do with love that already exists. And that distinction gives the story its aching weight. The film's moral center shifts quietly. Rick begins closed off, detached, protective of his own survival. He ends differently. What audiences didn't know is how understated this transformation is. There is no speech announcing change, no sudden reversal. His values shift through action, not declaration. He helps. He steps aside. He accepts consequence. The moral center of the film moves without drawing attention to itself. That subtlety makes the transformation believable. Rick doesn't become idealistic. He becomes responsible. And that quiet evolution is far more convincing than any dramatic proclamation could ever be. The film gains power over time. At release, Casablanca resonates. Decades later, it deepens. What audiences didn't know is how flexible the film's meaning would become. Each generation finds something different inside it. Wartime sacrifice, romantic restraint, ethical responsibility. The film doesn't lock itself to one era because it avoids specifics that age. Instead, it focuses on choices that repeat across history. Hope, loss, duty, love. These themes don't expire. They accumulate meaning as audiences change. That's why the film doesn't fade. It adapts, and each revisit reveals something that wasn't visible before. Casablanca becomes a cultural language. The dialogue escapes the screen. Lines become shorthand for emotion. Scenes become reference points for sacrifice, and farewell. What audiences didn't know is how deeply the film embeds itself into global storytelling. Writers, filmmakers, and audiences quote it instinctively, even when they don't realize the source. It becomes cultural vocabulary. Mention the fog, the piano, the goodbye. People understand immediately. That level of integration is rare. It means the film has moved beyond entertainment into shared memory. Not watched, remembered. And once a movie reaches that level, it never truly leaves. The final choice defines the film's soul. Rick's decision hurts. That's why it matters. What audiences didn't know is how deliberately the film embraces discomfort. The ending refuses comfort. It denies personal reward. It chooses meaning over happiness. Rick doesn't take what he wants. He does what the moment demands. That choice defines the entire film. It reframes love as responsibility and sacrifice as strength. The pain isn't accidental, it's essential, because a happy ending would be forgotten. This one isn't. And that's why Casablanca doesn't just end, it stays. Casablanca survives because it understands something rare. Love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means stepping aside. If you enjoyed uncovering what the screen never showed, like, subscribe, and remember, the greatest goodbyes are the ones that echo forever.